Hello, I'm Cynthia coming to you from Seattle, Washington to talk to you about reward systems. And one of my challenges here, or my main challenge, is I want to talk to you about a belief that you may not even know that you have. And what really is underlying this talk is the fact that I believe, we all want to see the people around us, the people who work with us, the people in our families, to be successful for the long term. And so the question is, how do you motivate people to be successful? And I'm going to be speaking to you largely as a manager in a workplace, and that's my role. But this talk could really apply to someone, again, as a family or as a coworker. And so indeed, how do we empower and encourage people to do their work? We want to set up conditions so that people develop a genuine interest in what they're doing. And so my thesis here is we need to rethink how we reward people at work to get the best results. And I get this very much pulled from this book by Alfie Kohn called Punished by Rewards. And several of the examples in the book and in my own life come from parenting. I was kind of proud of thinking about this because even if we're not all parents, we were all once children that can hopefully relate to these ideas. So sometimes an idea is so widely shared, we no longer notice it. It just feels like plain common sense. And that's especially true here in the United States. And this idea comes from the work of B.F. Skinner, that the best way to get something done is to provide a reward for people when they act the way that we want them to. Do this and you'll get that. And I'm going to try and convince you that this is a problem. And the heart of the problem is that people come to expect the reward. So using kids, if you give a child $1 to take out the trash, they'll take out the trash, but they will then only do so in the future. Pretty quickly, they'll come to expect that $1 in order to take out the trash. So the problem with rewards is that they work, but they sap interest. There was a study in the early 70s that really highlighted this with some college students. It seems like it's always college students that were studying. And they were given a spatial relations puzzle to solve within a certain amount of time. And there were two groups. The first group were paid some money, a few dollars, if they successfully solved the puzzle. And the second group were just told to do it because of the challenge. And so at the end of it, the researchers found that actually what they were studying was how much money would motivate the students to do better. And they found that the students who got no money for it actually did better than any amounts of money they gave the others. And so the researchers realized that the students who were doing it for free just found the joy of the puzzle. And what's more, those who were doing it for free just stayed longer after the research was done. If they hadn't solved the puzzle, they still wanted to do it, whereas the people who were being paid just left when their time was over. So do this and you'll get that. Puts the emphasis on the that. It saps the interest, the interest. So it really discourages risk-taking. So do this and you'll get that. Devalues the this. For example, if you finish your math, you can watch a movie. Well, what does that say about math? So I'm going to tell you a story about this. There was an old man who had a problem in his neighborhood. He liked his house, he liked his neighborhood, but over time there was a little group of boys who were about 10 or 12 years old who would go by his house every day at the end of school, and they developed this habit of saying insults to him. You know how young boys can do this. They started off in getting this going, and over time it really became quite a bit of insults. They were telling about how he was old and frail and ugly. And so he decided that he needed to do something about it. So he met them one day, and he said, on a Monday, and he said, okay, that was pretty good, all those insults, and tomorrow I'm going to give you $1 for each one of you who can give me insults. So they thought that was pretty crazy. And on Tuesday, they came back, and boy, they were hurling these insults at him. You're old, you're stupid, you're bald. And he said, okay, we're going to give you $1 for each of you. But he said, there's quite a few of you, so tomorrow I'm just going to give you a quarter. So they said, okay, so that, and the next day, Wednesday, even more of them came back. And they had all their insults for him, and he had a whole roll of quarters, and he gave them each a quarter, and he said, but this is getting kind of expensive. Tomorrow I can just give you a penny. And they said, it's not worth it. And they quit coming. So that's the heart of my story, is that when you do this and you'll get that, devalues the this. If you're expecting a reward, then you expect to keep getting that reward, or you're going to drop off your behavior. So what is a way to effectively motivate people at work if rewards aren't the right answer? And what we need to get to is intrinsic motivation, the motivation of the task itself, as opposed to extrinsic, like money or extrinsic rewards. Here in the U.S. at one point, in the 60s, it drove me crazy. These stories just drive me crazy. There was a program to give pizzas for children who read books. What does that say about reading, that you need to get pizzas for it? And I knew some kids at school at the time, and they felt like, well, here they had read long, interesting books for the joy of it, but kids who were reading shorter and shorter books to be able to get more pizzas. Do this and you get that. Devalues the this. So if you think about someone who is really great at what they do, or who are superlative at it, they're just, they love it. So we want people to find the joy of what they're doing. And so leaders, true leaders, instead of formal rewards, make use of intrinsic rewards, things that are built into the work itself. So I'm going to talk about the 3 C's of motivation, and that's content, choice, and collaboration. So let's start with content. If you want people motivated to do a good job, you've got to give them a good job to do. So to do with kids, that's like give them chores that are really appropriate to their age. So if in a workplace, its motivation is really highest when people have the opportunity to learn new skills or have some other variation in tasks and to demonstrate competence. So this can be hard to develop, but as a manager, I want you to think about this quote. A manager's job is not to motivate people to get them to achieve. It's rather the manager should provide opportunities for people to achieve so they become motivated. Does that make sense? You're really motivated about things that you do well. So ideally, a manager can have people try different jobs and find out what they do well at, and then even transfer them around to see where they succeed and have them stay with those jobs. Even within a job, it's valuable for people to understand the work that they're doing and to lost my place here, and to have some knowledge of the results. If the job's unpleasant, it's helpful just to frankly acknowledge that and give some rationale of why it's useful for the person to do it for the good of the whole, and to give as much choice as possible about how to perform that task. And that leads to the 2nd C, which is choice. So with kids, if they have to do chores, you want to give them a choice of which ones to do. It's interesting in the workplace, they have found that burnout, when people are tired of work, it's not because of too much volume, but rather when people feel like they're powerless, like they don't have control. Also, the characteristic when people are feeling lack of creativity, it's not because of tight deadlines, it's when they don't have freedom to to figure out how they're going to approach a task. So really giving people a lot of choice. People don't resist change, they resist being changed. So while it's difficult to give employees the chance to make their own decision, it really pays off. And it's clearer to us when we think about a child. If you want a child to take responsibility for their behavior, We have to give them responsibility. We take that for granted with children, and we should have that same attitude in the workplace. When there's a problem at the workplace, the manager should really bring employees into the solution and help figure out ways to overcome it, and then they'll feel like they'll feel motivated. The last C is collaboration, and here again we see that with kids, that they really like to help be part of the family system, setting up chores or whatever, the family vacation, that they're part of the team. People are much more enthusiastic when they have a sense of being and belonging as part of the community. So I want to bring this to a close about a study of garbage collectors. We might think of garbage collecting as not a particularly motivating task, but yet these garbage collectors were found to be very happy, this particular group, because they had good relationships between the men. Their tasks and routes were varied continually to avoid monotony, and the company was set up as cooperative, so each worker had a pride of ownership. So in summary, rewards are so tempting. They're a fast solution to get something done. But in the long run, if you really want to develop people, you're trying to develop in them a sense of accomplishment, a chance to be creative, and that magical growth that comes from people cooperating on a task. So my hope is that you'll think about this next time that you hear someone offer, let's offer a prize to the group who does the best. And instead challenge that thinking, at least in yourself. And if you're really convinced, speak up about this and realize you're going against some strong beliefs because rewards work. You have to acknowledge that, expect some pushback, but think of how to respond about where do we really want to get in the long run. And remember the story of the old man. Thanks.